Though this is another filler episode, one loved this one. Putting us down memory lane and showing us as diehard fans why we love this show so much was nice. And like I said, I enjoy it very much when they are playing with the media attention. Art imitating life is just a nice plot device they use often in American TV shows that are popular. Stretching the war between Emily and Victoria into the media is also a nice little tribute to the role newspapers and television interviews played in previous seasons in Revenge. 'Cause we had major campaigns around Daniel's arrest in Season 1 and Conrad's political ambitions in Season 2. Not to forget those numerous scandals that were dragged around in the press outside the direct plot of the show. About Victoria and Louise searching for the flash drive. This whole scene was just so ridiculous. We should believe that this little piece of plastic made in China should outlive a fall from this height. Would it not have been far more believable if Louise just made another copy from his laptop? She still lives in this house and can come and go whenever she wants. And since she is more intimate with Nolan than her brother was, it would have been even more believable if she guessed his password. Especially if it is really 88 cores, that is his hashtag, which he told her some episodes before. Anyway, it is just annoying how important this flash drive and the information on it are for Victoria. Why is she so obsessed with putting Emily in jail for her crimes from the past? Is this really all she can think about as punishment after Emily got so inventive throughout the previous seasons? About this sad attempt to of her targets to conspire with Victoria again. The idea behind this was funny, but again they could have made more of it. Instead, just one scene with Senator Tom Kingsley, who would not even been my first choice. They could have showed how Victoria contacted them, and how they tried to bring Emily down. This could have been stuff for several episodes. I know they would have to reduce Margaux's vendetta for this, but this little scene just feels rushed. The problem with such episodes is that at first watch this is just thrilling because you do not know which parts of the show they choose to emphasize here. On second and third watch this gets very dull, especially if you binge watch the show. But I guess that is not for what such episodes are made for. Again, I must admit I like how they have written this episode. Every flashback is embedded into a broader context. Like the first one, Nolan remembering how they became a team with their first takedown of Senator Kingsley. Then we have, of course, Emily's interview in which she shows us her view on all that has happened. Though this was very touching, it would have been more brave to go through with the idea having Victoria tell us her view. I mean, she was present at nearly every event and witnessed the outcome of Emily's revengenda. So making the interview with her would have been far more interesting and more surprising than seeing again how Emily suffered. They tried a little by letting Victoria tell Louise her story to keep the Southern Belle on her side. But she just scratched the surface with the events of the finale from Season 3 and locking her up in Claremont. What about the death of Pascal? Which she still blames to Emily. What about her campaign to take Daniel and Charlotte away from her? And of course, what about Fauxmanda? How Emily used that girl is the only thing she could pin on her for good reason. Anyway, I think they again lost a good opportunity here to surprise and thrill us with more than the obvious. Emily and Ben. This scene was just so obvious. First Nolan's remark that she just forget about him, and then Jack making sure that she is ready to face him. You really see here that they cannot have a future together. I understand his anger, and from his perspective this must be a nightmare. Not only because of the betrayal and not filling him in before she went public, but also because his career could be over before it just begun. And before meeting Emily, this goal, becoming detective, seemed to be the only thing that kept him going. So she destroyed a lot more than just their relationship here. About Nolan, Louise and Victoria. I must admit I always felt sorry for Louise in these last episodes. She is the most soft target of the gang. First of all because she is not really in the inner circle and like Ben, Emily does not care enough for her to tell her the truth. This would have made a huge difference for both of them. Second, she is already mistrusting Nolan because he cheated on her and lied about it. So Victoria can easily manipulate her to see Nolan in his darkest shades. Some things might be even discussable, like helping Emily committing major crimes which could bring them both in jail for real. Yeah, we viewed him as the good ones, but only because the Graysons and especially Conrad did far more heinous crimes and were far worse. Emily and Nolan never killed someone, and though Emily turned to violence sometimes, Nolan never physically hurt anyone. And the most important difference, they never hurt someone innocent intentionally. All her targets had dirt on their part, and she often helped innocent people to break free from the past or atrocities they had to endure. For instance, the wife of Judge Barnes who got beaten by him. Which makes it easier to see that they are on the good side. But keeping that open to discussion was a nice idea. Not only in an educational sense. It just brings another layer to this story. And again is closer to the original story by Dumas. 'Cause its premise in the end is that revenge is useless and makes you only suffer. About Emily and David threatening Tom Kingsley. I must admit that I hate how this scene turns out. First, I was thrilled with Emily talking freely about her takedowns, and showing us the moments of season 1 we loved the most. Though I was a bit disappointed that they left Mason out. But we will see later why. Anyway, as David came and threatened Kingsley with open violence, I just saw the difference again between the men of the show and Emily. While Emily is so sophisticated and just using all her brilliant skills to take her targets down. Even her threat was more elegant than David just resorting to cruel violence. And I do not like how they appear as mafia mobster here who are about to gather protection money. Even more as both are wearing these suits. Should the black and white one mean Emily and David playing good and bad cop here? I know the scene should make us celebrate how David is protecting his daughter, but for me they both just appear as shady as any high criminal who tries to cover his tracks. Her remarks about the nail studio as his office neighborhood and his survival instinct were funny, but that did not make the scene good. About Margaux's flashbacks to her time with Daniel. This montage was heartbreaking, especially because I was rooting for them until the very end. Like I said in these last episodes, Margaux seems to me less aggressive and her anger seems just to have disappeared. She seems finally to mourn Daniel's and her baby's death and tries to move on. So in my opinion she seems to be more like a hostage of Victoria's plan to destroy Emily. Louise is helping her willingly, of course, only why she is manipulated by her and only sees Victoria's truth. Margaux seems finally to see clearer and cannot be manipulated anymore. I like that they are showing the differences between these two allies. 'Cause Margaux only got into this because of the circumstances. I am sure if they had not lied about Daniel's death she would have never thought about going after Emily. Even if Victoria told her the truth. Because she knows in her heart that Pascal and the Graysons are no good people. And in some kind deserved what was coming at them. She could have also digged deeper. After all, she rules a media imperium and knows how to get information to build her own opinion. While Louise in her fragile state is more than susceptible to manipulation from outside. Maybe Victoria is so obsessed with putting her in jail because it is the only thing Margaux would accept. Like Emily, she obviously draws the line at murder. So Victoria cannot tell her that she wants to kill Emily. or the writers are trying desperately to make the punishment fit the crime again. Since Emily locked her up in season 3 and wanted her to go to prison like Conrad before she killed Aiden, Victoria wants to do the same with her. Or maybe going public saved Emily's life because Victoria is not ready to go to jail for murder. Spoiler alert, like when she turned out dead, Emily was the prime suspect. Victoria would be as well on top of the list. About Margaux telling Victoria the truth how she lost the baby. I cannot understand why this changes nothing for Victoria. Any reasonable human being would have stopped here and reconsidered. I mean, Victoria must know by now that everything Emily did in these previous years was to punish the Graysons for their past sins and to exonerate her father's name. She did not plan to have Fauxmanda, Declan, Aiden or Pascal killed. That body count goes straight to the Graysons' account. And now she knows that Margaux's miscarriage was an accident. Why is she not stopping here right now? Margaux can see that this is no good, though I wonder why she is still helping Victoria in the next episodes. Even she says the opposite here. Anyway, seems as if Victoria has lost it and just wants to go through with it no matter the cost. Maybe they want to depict her as this crazy and far gone, so the only way out is to kill her. Maybe this whole last attempt to win the war with Emily was a murder-suicide. Anyway, the next episodes are the best for me, even though there are a few holes in the story. Like how they are tracking Victoria. Louise would sure as hell not help bug her phone. Or should we believe Nolan found a way to hack her phone without having a physical device? About Emily and Nolan fighting. This was hard to watch cause we did not see them fight this hard since season 1. And it never lasted that long. For 2 episodes they did not speak with each other. I can understand that she is furious because she is afraid that everything is tumbling down under her again. But she had the same problem in season 3, remember? With her infinity box in which she kept all the evidence. Okay, it is not the same as those files cause it was mostly her research on the targets, but you could uncover her true identity with the box. Sure, after Louise told him about her brother spying for Victoria, he could have erased everything. But since they rediscovered the flash drive, this would NTO have changed anything. About the flashbacks with Nolan and Jack. As I said, I like how they embed the flashbacks in these conversations and not just throw them at us. Here it is because both are questioning their relationship with Emily. Nolan shows again what a great Emily shipper he is, and this speech really made me reconsider my doubts about them as a romantic couple. And Jack shows Nolan and us why he and Emily still are the heart of the show. Another thing, since we know by now that this will be the last season, they make this also bittersweet with all those flashbacks to the highlights of the show and Nolan burning his whale figurine. About the interview, there is nothing much to say. They make a compelling story here and showing us what we all had in mind during the scenes. The only thing that bothered me is that they are really giving her the space to tell her story. The interviewer only asks at the beginning and at the end some meaningful and slightly investigative questions you would expect. Like how is her relationship towards Victoria and where Emily's moral standards stand. If this was Victoria's interview, we had all been pissed, and asks why the hell they gave her the opportunity to spill her lies. Since it is Emily who is talking, we agree and bound with her. I must admit I love the staging. Her wearing this light blue dress with the pink wall behind her. She looks very feminine and fragile. Especially in the close-ups when she is crying. I must admit I always thought about Nolan's and Daniel's remark on her faking tears. The scene with Sarah in season 3 was so funny. But since she is truly relieving her trauma by talking about it, those tears of the character are real, I suppose. Yes, she omits everything that could shed a bad light on her and her mission, but who cares? This girl and her friends suffered enough, and the overall message here would not be tarnished if you think about her mistakes. For memory lane, I will pick out some things that I thought she did not right and went too far for her revenge ender. First of all, the lie about being pregnant. I spoke about this a lot, how this was really bad of her and an unforgiving thing to tell Daniel she is with child only to make him marry her. And not even for the reason that she loves him and wants him at her side. No, just in order to get through with her plan for the wedding night. Then in season 1 there was the cover-up of Frank's death for Fauxmanda. I understand that she wanted to protect the only friend she had by that time. But would it not have been better to deliver her to the police instead of blackmailing the Graysons? In that year, Emily could have spared herself a lot of trouble with Fauxmanda if she just had her go to prison. I mean, if she really would have spilled the beans about their identity swap, who would have believed her? A former criminal and stripper against the word of a reformed socialite? Who would have won? Then there is of course the fact that she is using both sisters, the chosen one and the real one, Charlotte, in her revenge ender. In season 1 and 2 she constantly manipulates Fauxmanda and Charlotte to get him to do as she will. She even brings the two together and lets Charlotte believe she is the aunt of baby Carl. Which brings us to the even more unforgiving thing she does to Jack. Playing with Daniel and his feelings is hard enough, but letting Jack marry Fauxmanda and believing she is her was really twisted even for Emily. Both women had multiple times to tell Jack the truth, and Fauxmanda wanted to do this before she died. But Emily always said this would break Jack's heart. She may be right, but they just delayed this by sticking to this big lie. And her love triangle with Daniel and Aiden. In season 2 we see how this affects not only Daniel. For me, she asked too much of Aiden in this season. I mean, she is still sleeping with Daniel while she is together with him. How could he not be jealous and angry with her? As for her targets, they are only a few I felt sorry for. Obviously Father Paul stands out in season 3, and it was great seeing her development here from season 1. She sees that she is going too far with this and regroups by teaming up with Paul to make Conrad confess. In season 1 she got over the edge with Nolan by outing him and Tyler. I still wonder how he could forgive her for that. Tyler is also someone that stands out because of his mental illness. I know she mostly reacted to his offenses and hostility towards her. But that scene at Daniel's birthday party in which she provoked him to the point he had that outburst was fun to watch, but not right. Again, she was using an inferior and unstable person to her advantage. Another things is the collateral damage they even do not address in season 1. For examples, all the employees and family members that go down with her targets. Nolan mentions the family of Senator Kingsley. His wife was surely not impressed getting to know he has a child with another woman and ends his career. And the employees of Bill Harmon were also not that lucky. Or the patients of Michelle Banks who were dragged through the mud by Emily's exposure of their private conversations with their therapist. That were all I can think about. Maybe you know some examples I forgot. Feel free to post them in the comments below. Another thing that still bothers me about the interview. I know this one is intended to put us down memory lane. But would it not have been cool to see some new flashbacks that filled in some of the blank spaces? They could have made a list as preparation of all the open questions. And then they could have gone through maybe not aired footage or deleted scenes and put something new together. I know they surely had budget problems at the end, which is maybe even the reason for this tribute episodes. To cut the budget short by reusing old footage. But that would have been a really cool idea and something most TV shows just do not make. The one thing I loved about her interview was the tribute to Fauxmanda, Aiden and Charlotte. They really suffered the most and too paid the ultimate price for Emily's revengender. And since this was the thing I hate Victoria the most for, I loved that she made such a big deal out of Aiden's murder. Yes, Victoria killed Helen Crowley, but only out of self-defense and because Conrad manipulated her to think she was after her son Daniel. Aiden's murder was planned and just intended to hurt Emily. So this alone was enough for me to wish her dead. But I like Emily's response to play the ball back to Victoria. 'Cause in fact it is her tax to face what she has done. Not only to Amanda and David, but to all those people who suffered under the Graysons and their crimes. And even though we know since that flashback episode in season 2 that her mother made her take the fall for her, I like Emily's metaphor that Victoria has a dark soul and is some kind of cancer. In the season 3 finale she said something quite similar, that she would destroy everyone who gets close to her. I think both sayings are true and can be told about both women. And I just love the ending with Margaux and Victoria reacting to her interview. Seeing her as breaking news on Times Square and Victoria that small in the crowd really was a statement. It is not often, but sometimes design, plot and writing form a perfect union in revenge. And this scene was the newest example. I also like that they spared the flashbacks with Jack for the end. It is kind of funny that Nolan is so enthusiastic and we get to see the best scenes that really makes us believe there is something substantial here. Only to reveal in the next minute that Jack has finally given up and wants to move on. It was clever mixing those little highlights with the lows. 'Cause Emily let him down time and time again. So you can see both sides, the shippers that are willing to forget and forgive everything she has done to Jack, and the haters who think Jax is far better off without her. I mean, if they showed what he has lost because of her in a montage, they could have really crushed this ship. About Victoria and Margaux. This scene is still a mystery for me. I mean, Margaux could have known that Emily is just telling what she knows and found out in her research. The truth is something only Victoria and her family knows, which is why Margaux tells her Daniel told her about it. So she cannot blame Emily for believing what is in the public record. Though I love the bonding here between the two women and showing Victoria as a victim of her mother and her husband Conrad. This is a real limited and one-sided view, since Victoria could have done something about it the whole time. She could have told the truth about her mother even after she was charged. She could have left Conrad after David got arrested, and even in those years after his arrest. And what should Victoria's phrase mean that Emily dogged her grave? Is she already planning what she is pulling up in the end? Or was it a hint for us, telling us already here that she will not be really dead until the finale? About David and Amanda at the veranda. This still is my favorite scene of the two, and I miss no opportunity to put these scenes in my Amanda and David Clarke videos. It just breaks my heart over and over again how they are sitting together on the swing he built for her, and I wish so much this could be me sitting together with my dad again. The flashbacks and the lyrics of the song add to the atmosphere and were just perfect, too. Bringing the infinity box with the diaries back just made it even more fulfilling, cause it reminds us how lucky the two are. That they got a second chance to spend time together. And again, this little snippet brings back the full circle. By showing us little Amanda in her father's arms and cutting to them in the present. Yes, this is nothing special and just too conventional as the cliffhanger at the end with the red sharpie. But for very personal reasons, this is just the perfect setting and storyline for me.